calling this LenTalk Sacred Journeys. And let me tell you the backstory as to why I decided to do this today. And it comes from the fact that everyone who translates into another language, and for us who are biblical scholars and trying to communicate the gospel to this culture, we have to translate from the Hebrew and the Greek and the Aramaic into our native tongue, which is English. But to translate is to translate from the original is to, in some ways, to betray the original. I don't know how else to put this, although the Italians have a wonderful phrase for this. The Italian phrase is traditore, in other words, translator, traitor. Because in translating, for example, from the Greek into English, and then trying to preach from the English in some way that, and let me get a little technical here, every translation is a traducement, or more philologically, every traduction is a traducement. When you translate, you immediately somehow alter the reality of what you are recreating in your translation. So I was thinking about this and how frustrating it is, and how I'm constantly going, yeah, but it says that in English, but in the original, it says something else. And then I got thinking, okay, I wonder what, besides the sacred texts of the world, the Bible, the Quran, what are the most translated texts in the world, besides the ones that the world would call these sacred texts? Because it's easy, the most translated text in the world is the Bible. So what are the other ones? And so I got up Grok and I said to AI, give me the 6 most translated texts besides the sacred ones that are in the world. Give me the 6 most translated text in the world. And so I'm going to give them to you, and I'm going to just enumerate them. And here are the most translated texts outside of religious scriptures. And as I was doing this, I'm asking the question, okay, what does this reveal? The fact that these are the most popular stories, if you will, in the whole world. What does this little exercise here reveal about humanity's hungers, about humanity's questions, about the quest of the human spirit? So here are the most 6 translated texts based on Grok AI. One is The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. And this has approximately 382 languages that this little French masterpiece has been translated into. The Little Prince. Second, The Adventures, who knew, of Pinocchio by Carlo Collodi. Estimated to be around 260 to 300 different languages. Number 3, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. About 174, some say 200, but let's just go with 174 languages. And then there's Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tales. Over 150 languages. Don Quixote by Cervantes. 140 to 145 languages. And then number 6, Harry Potter series. The series as a whole has been translated into around 80 languages, but some have been translated into more. Some volumes in the series have been translated into less. So these are the top 6. Besides the Bible, the most translated stories in the world. So what are the semiotics of these 6 most translated texts? What does it tell us? What does it reveal about our deepest yearnings And how does this relate to who we are as followers of Jesus? Like pilgrims seeking the celestial city in Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress. I think these 6 stories, in other words, the world's most popular stories, trace some sacred journeys and reveal some things about who we are. Number 1. Let's just take the Little Prince. You got a heavenly vision and a visitor who teaches that what is essential is invisible to the eye. That's the most famous quote from the book. What is essential is the most invisible to the eye. In other words, that which we're taking with us is the seen or the unseen, is the visible or the invisible. This is the biblical phrasing for it. We also got echo here of Paul's letter about seeing through a glass dimly before seeing face to face. Number 2, Pinocchio. Wow. Here's a parable about redemption and transformation, mirroring the journey from old to new creation. Like the prodigal son, Pinocchio must die to his old nature to become truly alive, to his true nature, or his redeemed nature. Alice in Wonderland, a journey through the looking glass into another realm, reflecting Paul's teaching that now we see through a glass, a mirror dimly. Alice's quest for meaning in an upside-down world parallels the Christian navigation of what it means to live in this upside-down world and constantly trying to make it right side up. And then there's Anderson's fairy tales, 150 languages. I was surprised this was here, by the way. Parables of sacrifice and redemption, particularly the Little Mermaid giving up her voice for love, echoing Christ's emptying of himself, the kenosis. Fully human, fully divine, but emptied himself of the divine to show us what it means to be fully human. And then Don Quixote's quest for noble purpose in a fallen world, reflecting the tension between worldly reality and divine truth. And finally, number 6, Harry Potter, a modern passion narrative of sacrifice and surrender, but of sacrificial love conquering death and evil. Now, these 6 texts resonate universally because they echo the great story, humanity's separation from and longing for reunion with God. Their protagonists are pilgrims, and I love that word for disciple, a pilgrim. I come from a tribe called Pilgrim Holiness, and I love both those words. Pilgrim, we're all pilgrims, and we're on a journey of holiness, of wholeness, of wellness. These protagonists in this great story, in all 6 of these texts, are pilgrims seeking truth, transcendence, transformation, or what I like to call transfiguration, and ultimately communion with something greater than themselves. So what else can we learn from these texts? And notice, I'll say one thing. These texts, like Christ's parables, use the human imagination to convey and to illuminate eternal truth. And we've got to have a rebirth, a revival, a renewal of the Christian imagination. Jesus, nobody has studied the imaginative life of Jesus. What made Jesus so creative? He had this, what was his imagination life like? And God gave us an imagination for a reason. We got to have a rebirth of the Christian imagination, which is one of the reasons why I got so excited when I started just kind of reflecting and pondering these 6 stories and what they suggest about who we are. Their widespread translation suggests a universal hunger for narratives that, like the Scriptures itself, help us make sense of our own journeys, from exile to homecoming, from death to resurrection, from brokenness to wholeness. Now here's more that we can learn. And so here are the ultimate semiotics of these most translated texts in human history and in the world today. Number one, I just call it the universal shaping of the mind. Do you notice the preponderance of children's literature among these texts? It kind of jumps out at you. First thing you notice, this is all children's literature. The most popular literature in the world is children's literature. Jesus' parables were like children's literature. Unless you become as a child, Jesus said, there's no room for you in heaven. There'll be no grown-ups in heaven. You got to become. Child is not something you leave behind. You enter into, you become, mature into. And here these children's literature speak volumes about our deep-seated desire both to understand what it means to be young and to mold the minds of the young into adulthood. Works like The Little Prince, Pinocchio, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, they're not just entertainment, they're vessels for cultural and moral and spiritual growth. They blend enchantment with ethical guidance, and they appeal to diverse civilizations. So number two, all of them have themes of pilgrimage and identity. And this is some of the key issues of our world today. These narratives often center around the profound journey of human transformation, what I like to call the divine transfiguration, Pinocchio's quest for humanity, Alice's exploration of a world turned topsy-turvy, Little Prince's search for what truly matters in life. They delve into questions of identity and integrity and the essence behind being itself. What does it mean to be? What is integral to the integrity of an identity of a human being? And this suggests a universal fascination with the metamorphosis from one state of being to another, reflect our own life's journey from ignorance to enlightenment, or from, in the Christian story, from sin to salvation. Number three, and this is a huge one, the timelessness of timeliness. The longevity of these stories, each one anchored in a specific time and place, with the exception of the relatively newer Harry Potter series, underscores the ability of the particular to transcend time and cultural boundaries. They all, in their timeliness, speak to timeless truths and emotions, suggesting that some narratives possess an intrinsic, universal quality that resonates across centuries, across continents, across time, across space. I put it like this: you particularize in order to universalize. The more you particularize, the way to the universal is through the particular. And so the more timely you become, the more timeless it becomes. Number four, the theme of escape and meaning. The dominance of fantasy. You notice all this? This is a lot of fantasy literature. I collect in my house a lot of fantasy furniture. And this is fantasy furniture. This is fantasy narratives. And it points to a profound human yearning to escape. But that escape is a form of engagement, not abandonment of the reality. The search for meaning beyond the tangible. The search for truth beyond the time-bound. Fantasy literature invites readers into worlds where the impossible becomes possible, where the constraints of reality are not just loosened, but really entirely reimagined. And it provides a canvas for exploring life's deeper meaning and deeper truths in a way in which you are bound by the cliches and the conventions of the world in which you live. Number five, the quest for self-discovery. Each of these works features protagonists, main actors, on a journey of self-discovery. From Cervantes' Don Quixote to Rowling's Harry Potter, this recurrent theme highlights humanity's relentless pursuit of understanding who you are, and that comes best through narrative, through story. So these stories are all mirrors, reflecting our own existential quests. And they reflect them back at us, encouraging us on a pilgrimage from naivete to knowledge to secondary naivete, as some would put it, from the known to the unknown. In short, what we learn about these 6 most translated texts in the world reveals a global cultural appetite for stories that transcend mere storytelling. They're vehicles for navigating the complexities of childhood and adulthood, the labyrinth of identity, the vast landscapes of human emotion and philosophy, and the preferences for narratives rich in wonder, metamorphosis, personal enlightenment, communal journeys, reflects our collective psychological landscape, a shared journey through the realm of the imagination, where language is no barrier, where every tale holds a piece of the universal human experience, and where, oh, by the way, might this be why the Bible, the greatest story ever told, is the most translated text, and I hate to call this text, it's a story, in all of human history. Because all of these themes are caught up in the most incredible story ever told. But we don't know it as a story. We've reduced it to propositions and principles and doctrines and verses and values and virtues and worldviews. No. So what these 6 most translated texts teach us, basically, is why the number 1 most translated text in human history and in the world is the Bible. Sacred journeys. I invite you to explore them, but most of all, explore the Bible as the sacred story.